Hello, everyone.
Hi, Carrie.
Barb.
Hello.
All right. So I'm just seeing if everyone's here, and Natalia, if you could let me know when I can get started, that'd be great.
You can start now.
I can start now. Perfect. Thank you. All right. Well, welcome, everyone. Today we're going to talk about shaping the next government and where exactly does Humane Canada's platform fit into that. So our goal is to assist you all in engaging in the process, providing some, support and momentum and helping each other to kind of elevate animal welfare in the conversation of the overall federal election. So I'm going to let Barb take it away with this slide, and then I will see you back after this slide. So Barb.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you had a good last 24 hours. So this is one of my favorite slides ever, is the description of Humane Canada's theory of change and how that fits into why we're active in elections and why we put together a platform. So if you've seen any of our presentations on our Humane Canada strategy, you'll be familiar with this. And the idea that our ultimate goal, our ultimate reason, our what for the Federation existing is to elevate animal welfare, and in particular through that one welfare lens. So making sure that decision makers and politicians understand that animal welfare is good for human welfare, is good for environmental welfare, and the opposite is true. And so we have two things that I want to point out here, why this is our platform is important and why you being here is important, is in determining if we want to create a humane Canada and if we're going to do that through elevating animal welfare. We need to do it with two sectors. We need to build a welfare conscious population, and we need to build an active and engaged government. And those two sections need to understand why we need to make change and what they can do to make that change. And this is underpinned by a strong membership. So, all of you who are committed to influencing federal policy. And so that's why it's important that you're here, because the election platform will be what we set out to influence federal policy. And the idea with regards to the election is that through this time, through this policy, we're going to ask Canadians, ask our members, ask people to signal to parliamentarians that animal welfare is an important issue, and then build on that activity after the election is over. And so I think it was really great to have this in there just so we can locate why Humane Canada writes a platform and why we participate and ask you to participate along with us in building that active and engaged government through that platform and through this election. Back to you, Carrie.
Thanks, Barb. All right. So the outline for today is we're going to start with some of the issues and challenges we're going to be facing in 2025. We're going to go through our policy platform page by page, and we are going to talk about how we can align Canadian priorities to animal welfare through our policy platform, and then next steps and questions. So, some of the top issues, according to a poll last month for the election, is listed here. So, top of mind, and they can shift a little bit. So, before housing was higher, and now the relationship with the US, with everything going on, with the whole 51st state annexation threats, all of that. So, that has moved up a bit and sort of usurped housing affordability and availability. But the top five are typically what they usually are, which is inflation, cost of living, healthcare, economy, unemployment, and jobs, as well as housing affordability and availability. So, Some of our challenges are how do we make parliamentarians care about animal welfare in the face of these other issues? So, the one silver lining that has emerged from all of this is that we're experiencing a movement in Canada of almost unprecedented national pride. So, now is there a way to leverage that? Perhaps by hashtag elbows up for animal welfare. So, tying the platform recommendations to the top concerns that Canadians have today, I believe we will have a greater chance of success with including animal welfare into one of the party's election platforms, or at least get it into a national conversation. So, without further ado, here is our election policy platform. So, we went through this yesterday with what is a policy platform. The two goals are create a united voice for humane societies and SPCAs and help politicians and government officials focus on what we need to advance animal welfare in Canada. Humane Canada's policy platform is similar to the 2021 policy platform. It provides common strategies for you to use to choose which policy and recommendations to prioritize within your specific region or that are concerns of your specific communities. Focuses on companion animals, farmed animals, legal framework, and public safety, wildlife, and One Health, One Welfare. So for companion animals, we've asked for federal funding to provide a stable and ongoing funding package for animal shelters like you to address capacity issues that have been caused by abandonment and overpopulation, and explicit inclusion of these shelters as eligible for infrastructure funding, and definition of community-oriented structures. Breeding oversight to help crack down on the proliferation of backyard puppy mills, backyard breeders, all of that became much worse during COVID to meet the demand of people to have animals, specifically dogs, and to try to set an effective regulatory framework so that we can register, license and inspect these breeders to limit overbreeding, and then strengthen the resources to enforce regulations and seize animals who are found in poor welfare conditions. So the issues addressed there are the inflation and cost of living, as well as healthcare, because 60% of households include a pet, a dog or a cat post-pandemic. 71% of those households consider those animals to be family. So with the rising cost of living, Canadians are increasingly turning towards pet food banks, subsidized vet care, and other community outreach programs that are offered by you, our members. So substandard backyard breeders have no concern for the health of animals that they produce. They're only interested in the profit. So the burden of the costs that come from those animals that have been bred in these conditions is then passed on to an unwitting consumer. So it has the potential to also increase zoonotic disease as well as viruses, and if left unchecked. Introducing a system that restricts and regulates the breeding of those animals to those that genuinely care about their welfare and are concerned with keeping it that way, then that would benefit potential pet owners by alleviating these unnecessary costs. And in terms of veterinary care, creating a national preventative and affordable veterinary care strategy that includes increases in vet recruitment as well as subsidized vet resources for Indigenous and remote northern communities. So that addresses, again, inflation and cost of living, economy, unemployment, and jobs. And the high cost of veterinary care across Canada, as well as the shortages, is a major financial barrier to potential pet parents, as well as a leading cause of abandonment and neglect. So veterinarians are expected to face a labor shortage of between 2022 and 2031 at a national level. So the number of job openings that are projected to arise is about 5,000, with the number of job seekers expected to be 4,300. So supporting veterinary care on a national level, the future government has an opportunity to support Canadians with animals as well as those communities in boosts of employment with their economy and through new people and jobs that the clinic will bring. Pet inclusive housing is also included, even though it's predominantly a provincial matter. But we're encouraging engagement with housing stakeholders from the provinces and territories to increase the availability and affordability of pet-friendly units in housing and tie federally funded housing projects up in with pet-friendly criteria in those units in order to get the funding. So we have to position it as pet inclusive housing is not a nice to have, it's a need to have. With more younger Canadians who are choosing to have animals over traditional families, there's a significant need for more affordable pet-friendly rental housing solutions and for pet-friendly to be the standard rather than a special exception. And that addresses the housing affordability and availability. Now we're turning to farmed animals. So farmed animals, the categories were divided into public accountability, being the first one. So restoring public confidence, strengthening inspection and enforcement, increasing funding and resources to consistently inspect and enforce animal health and welfare regulations by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, and increasing transparency by mandating closed circuit television on farms during transport and in slaughterhouses. So that will address healthcare as well as Canada's relationship with the US. So there's an increasing public awareness and scrutiny regarding the welfare of farmed animals in all phases of their life. The public wants animals to be treated with, kindness and humanity. So that has led to pressure on agriculture and retail sectors to modify certain farming practices. So they've made commitments in some cases to phase out confinement housing and other painful practices. However, it's not perfect, so there are improvements that need to be made. So, looking at welfare through animal welfare through a one welfare lens, we recognize, as do many other Canadian consumers, that healthcare is linked to the well-being of animals used in food production, as well as threats posed by outbreaks like avian flu and other sort of zoonotic diseases. By increasing the transparency, strengthening protections, and improving public confidence in the system, this will also maintain our comparatively higher standards in farmed animal welfare and a commitment to evidence-based practices, such as monitoring external threats like virus and disease. So that affects our relationship with the US because currently there's problems with dairy farm tariffing, but we need to hold fast on our standards for dairy farming and improve them if we can, and protect that industry by protecting the animals in that industry. So the next section in farmed animals is regulatory improvements. So enacting legislation to establish the National Farmed Animal Care Council, codes of practice as the mandatory minimum standards of animal care with a clear reporting structure, commitment to prosecute noncompliance, and requirement for periodic review, which already exists, but it needs to be enforced and created on a federal level. Federal funding to establish grant programs to phase out conventional and replace with and enrich cages with for laying hens, gestation stalls for pigs, and tie stalls for dairy cattle. So we need to phase out intensive housing systems and focus on better systems that improve the welfare for those animals, as well as standardized labeling and specifying the method of production of animal products that will allow consumers to make informed food choices. And that would be enforced through the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. So again, that affects healthcare and inflation and the cost of living. So because we know that the welfare of farmed animals is tied to human health outcomes, And anything that improves the well-being for animals in food production will in turn lead to ultimately better health outcomes. In an uncertain economic environment, it may be tempting to loosen some of those standards to compete with national standards in so any improvements we make to enhance our own welfare for farmed animals will only make Canada more attractive. And Canadian consumers are looking to make smarter choices about what they're eating, as well as making every dollar count. So, standardized labeling that is honest about where their food is coming from and the production methods involved will help them do that. So, it also helps businesses that prioritize animal welfare make their extra efforts known more universally and encourages other businesses to elevate their own standards as well. And then finally, in the farmed animals category, we have ethical practices. So, humane depopulation, requiring comprehensive and transparent decision-making processes for planned and emergency depopulation, considering alternatives and prioritization of animal welfare, and that prohibits ventilation shutdown. Prohibiting intensive farming of wild and exotic species, and again, banning the export of live horses overseas for slaughter. So that addresses healthcare, economy, unemployment, and jobs. So ultimately, no one wants to see any Canadian businesses shut down, but there are some industries that are becoming obsolete as consumer trends and attitudes evolve. So slaughtering horses for consumption for food is one of those industries, as indicated by recent legislation that was just introduced in the United States, as well as last year in the UK to ban the practice entirely. So, wearing fur and eating octopus is another of those industries because faux fur alternatives have actually surpassed fur in terms of quality and affordability, and people are learning more about the animals that they eat or that they might be wearing and are choosing different better outcomes. So, a viral outbreak on a fur farm, for example, can be devastating both for farmers financially and emotionally, as well as for the animals. But that does not mean that the animals should suffer more because they need to be killed quickly. A society that consumes animals for food or wears animals as fur, we have an obligation to kill those animals in a way that minimizes their stress and any further suffering on their part. It's the very least we can do. So moving on to legal framework. So we are asking for legislative review of an all-party parliamentary animal welfare legislation review committee that will help to sort of look at the laws that we have in place, see where any improvements can be made, and make those recommendations. The dream is to create a ministry or at least an interdepartmental group or agent of parliament with the responsibility of animal welfare and protection in the federal government. Criminal code updates that reflect a more modern view of animals as more than just property, and animals in science that creates a regulatory framework for the oversight of animals used in science and provides sustainable funding for those centers, well, specifically the Canadian Centre for Alternatives to Animal Methods. So that addresses cost of living and healthcare. So cost of living is linked to a number of different criminal outcomes. So it's a critical underpinning to public safety, which can have serious impacts on these issues like healthcare as well as the cost of living. Those updates include recognizing animals as victims in Section 2, adding a section that deals specifically with seized animals and provides for their disposition once charges are laid, considering animal abuse crimes as an aggravating factor in violence cases, including sex offenses, domestic violence, and applications for dangerous offender status, as well as the formal criminalization of online sexual material that includes animal sexual abuse and exploitation. So although crime ultimately, depending on who you listen to, crime has actually come down over the past, I want to say 10, 20 years, except for in the area of online sexual exploitation, particularly of children. So the criminalization of sexual material that involves animals is linked to that because it's often used as a grooming tool. So it could be a significant factor in why there is an increase in this type of crime, as well as, the proliferation of the internet, chat rooms, technology, Snapchat, all of those web-based applications as well. So that enables people who are interested in that sort of thing to get together in ways that they never could before. Public safety. Updating the law is a critical first step, but laws are only as good as their enforcement. So police officers, crown prosecutors, and the judiciary all need training to know how to properly address violent crimes against animals when they occur alongside other crimes. Otherwise, they will not be dealt with appropriately and risk being discarded. So addressing crimes in connection with animal abuse will help to save time and costs at trial, and investigating animal abuse crimes can address criminal behavior before they escalate, which leads to less government spending to drive up inflation and improved healthcare outcomes from less crime-related post-traumatic stress. And detecting child pornography images on potential offenders' hard drives, along with a system for investigating those images in a central repository. Having animal sexual abuse dealt with in the same manner would be ideal, again, because there is such a link between the two of them. So animal sexual abuse images will frequently be found first. And this is what happened in the case that came out of Winnipeg involving the couple that began as animal cruelty videos. But further investigation revealed that in their devices they had possession of child sexual abuse material, and messages between the couple involved revealed plans to kidnap, sexually abuse, and torture a child. So these are all addressed to healthcare, inflation, and cost of living kind of thing, because crime drives costs up. In terms of wildlife, ending importation, trade, and captive breeding of wildlife and exotic species to protect Canadians from associated health and safety risks. Maintaining Canada's 2030 nature strategy and fulfill all its commitments. Restrict captive breeding and prohibit the importation of endangered species for captive breeding purposes. Replicate the municipal funding stream for the management of wildlife, whether implemented by a nonprofit organization, non-governmental organization, or municipality, and standardize that across the country. Ban inhumane methods of wildlife control, such as any use of control methods that prolong any suffering. So by enacting legislation that will help to sort of ban and prohibit importation of wild species, endangered species, that will help with Canadians in terms of healthcare. So we're not at risk of any exotic diseases in that respect, as well as inflation and cost of living, which is related to healthcare. And the One Health, One Welfare approach has been featured throughout most of this platform. So most of the issues that are addressed in this platform are related to healthcare and the economy and unemployment and jobs or cost of living. So that shows that it's all kind of tied in together. So we need a cross-discipline approach to ensure that those solutions to problems in one area, such as human health and development or the economy, are considered within the broader context of everything and do not have unintended effects on other areas such as animal welfare. So pandemic preparedness and emergency preparedness. So using a national response network that ensures that animals receive care during emergencies by improving those organizations' readiness and capabilities is huge to establish both the economy, unemployment, and jobs. because natural disasters and emergencies have a massive impact on those things, as well as on healthcare. So mental health in particular is problematic when animals are, separated from their people, or their people are forced to give up their animals because of an emergency. So keeping the animals together with their people or having a plan for them so that we know that they're safe will help to lessen the impact of the emergency on healthcare systems and hopefully improve mental health outcomes and the economy by creating meaningful jobs. And gender-based violence, as well as humane education. So, humane education is more of a but again, there needs to be a national education strategy that ensures that every child learns respects for humans, animals, and the environment as a whole, and develops empathy and compassion. And creating a federal funding model that would expand the program to include grant support for humane societies, SPCAs, and other shelters that offer animal sheltering support for people who are leaving violent situations is also very important to healthcare, housing availability, and inflation and the cost of living. So there was a 2024 Juristat article from StatsCan that indicated that Canadian residential facilities for victims of abuse revealed that just under 1 in 3, so 28% of those facilities offered accommodations for pets in 2022 and 2023, and that accommodation of pets has been identified as a critical issue for those who are escaping violence. It also found that 85% of the facilities who responded to that particular study indicated that the lack of affordable long-term housing was one of the main challenges facing residents of those facilities. So they weren't unable to get out of those facilities because there was nowhere for them to go. And pets, as we know, are also a factor in that. In many cases, people who are leaving violent situations are also fleeing financial abuse. So it's critical for allowing them to move forward with their lives that they are offered some sort of financial assistance to help them do that. And then teaching compassion from an early age is the foundation of building positive mental health. There's a reason why we have emotional support and service animals because we rely on them and their love as much as they rely on us. And again, we're just going to go back over the goals that Barb mentioned yesterday. So these are what we're collectively working toward. So in the short term, ensuring animal welfare is an election issue. Mid and long term is holding politicians accountable and developing policies to address the inadequacies of animal welfare laws. And you have your member toolkit. So that will help you be an active part of the national strategy, build your own animal welfare election strategy, and select tactics that work best for you and your communities. And then next steps, again, we will send out weekly special election member updates to keep you informed. If you wish to participate, please contact me and I will add you to our list. And keep in touch and let us know what you're doing so that we can both track our impact as well as sort of help you increase your reach. And on that note, that's everything. So I'm going to end the slideshow, stop sharing my screen. Right. I see there's no questions in the chat.
So we wanted to leave a good chunk of time to allow people to ask questions, dig into some of the different platforms if they want, or anything that might have come up from yesterday's presentation that you want to talk about today. And I'll monitor the chat and bounce things over to Carrie if they come up there, or you can just take yourself off mute. You can put your cameras on and we can have a conversation.
whatever you prefer.
I'm sorry, I can't find the hand.
That's okay.
Um, um, I just wanted to make a comment because I think I'm very new to this. I was really surprised yesterday that there was only like 19 people that showed up. It was 101 elections, and from Barbara's comment about I recognized a lot of those names. I wasn't sure how many people were like me, where this is a very new thing. I should, so I belong to an organization called Senior Animals in Needs Rescue, Saints Rescue. I know most people don't know what the heck that is. We're a sanctuary out in Mission. We take in senior animals and palliative care animals. As one thing I do want to say is the one thing that Barbara said that was really resonated with me that I thought was the most helpful was she said, when someone knocks on your door, and I'm probably changing the words, ask the person at the door, what is your animal welfare policy? It's such a simple question. I thought that was probably the most impactful for me. But I just want, so I was a little surprised that people who don't like some of I was surprised at who didn't show up. I will tell you that from our organization, even though we're 20 years old, we were run by a founder up until 2021. We are going through the process of she retired, we hired people, et cetera, and we're going through the process of that change. And we have also sold property and purchased property. And I can tell you that we can't do a lot of what you ask, even though I believe in it strongly. I believe that how change happens with everything in any country is through legislation, and it happens slowly. But that's the way it happens, where everybody agrees to it and shifts. I just know that we as an organization, all we can do is and it's me, putting stuff on social media. And that's the only way as an organization we can participate.
Yep. And that's how it starts. Whatever you can
Yeah.
do, that's exactly what we want. It's putting things on social media, letting us know so we can share it and help amplify your voices. That's what we want. So if
Okay.
anything in the platform resonates with you, like you would need funding for the palliative care because that's not cheap. So trying to get your organization funded and raising awareness of your organization would be key to that.
Yeah, and I don't even see me posting that way, how it's going to help us. I feel like we should be a community, the people who follow us, that believe in animal welfare, and I just want to promote what you're doing. It has
Mhm.
nothing really to do with organization in a huge sense. I can talk about Pet Companion and how it affects us, vet costs. We do have farm animals, how that did. I took screenshots of that. But to me, it's more important to have a larger message than just our organization.
And Sheila, I appreciate that that resonated for you, the idea of what to do when somebody comes to your door. Because we don't think about it, and I think we sometimes get flustered.
Yeah.
But if that's the only, if you say to that person, and if you encourage all of your followers on social,
Yes.
all of it, to say,
And I was actually going to think about doing that.
yeah, just
One,
say,
yeah.
ask nothing else. Just simply say,
Uh,
the most important thing to me right now is animal welfare. What is your party's policies on animal welfare?
yeah.
That will be so impactful. Um, and sometimes they come back and they'll give you more data. Sometimes they'll say, I'll call you. The most important thing is that they've heard at the door that this is an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be great. And thank you so much for being part of Humane Canada, for being an associate member, and thanks for your work.
Thank you.
I think also if you're able to go, if there's any town halls happening in Mission with an all-party debate or any of the party members for your area, going and asking in front of a group of people would also help.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
that's a great idea.
yeah. Right. So I know that Sarah from Ottawa Humane had some questions, and then Kylie had popped a question into the chat. So, all right. Which do I take first now?
Take Kylie's first.
Oh,
All
no.
good. No, please take Kylie's. I can wait.
Okay.
No problem, Carrie.
Okay. Thanks, Sarah. So Kylie's question is a great question. So from the recommendations in the toolkit, if we're only able to start with 1 to 3 actions, what would be the most impactful to start with to support these efforts? So it's basically the thing with the toolkit is it's designed for you to apply to your own situation. So whatever organization, whatever community you're in, if there's an issue in there that really reaches into you and is like, oh yeah, that's a huge problem in our area, or that really needs to be addressed. That is what you would start with, and then start simple. Start by creating like a social media post, putting it out to your followers, getting all of your followers or getting your friends, everyone in your organization, even if that's like a couple people, or if it's just you and you have friends, have the friends share that and get it sort of to grow organically from there. So that's sort of the first, because as we're seeing this election, it seems to be, playing itself out on social media. So that's an important place to start. What I'd suggested to Sheila, showing up at a town hall and asking your members or contacting your member's office and asking, what do you plan on doing for animal welfare? Or we have this specific issue in our area. What is your plan for handling that? That's another action. Barb, do you have any other suggestions?
No, I think that's great. But just to clarify, Kylie, you were talking about the different possible actions in the toolkit, or were you thinking about the possible platform asks?
More so the actions, like, if you had to prioritize how you would like us to help, is it social media where you want us to start? Is it writing to the members where you want us to start? Like, what would be most helpful for you for us to start with?
Yeah, great. And so Carrie's bang on. I think the social media, if you had to start anywhere, getting it out to your constituents who are on there, and get them active so that you don't have to do it all yourself. You could even send them out, like put together a post that says, here are the top 3 things you can do for animals over this election. And phone calls are always the most impactful to a politician or a candidate. However, most people don't do that, right? So you can encourage them to do the question at the door, to call, or to go to a debate. The other thing that we'll be doing is putting together a new mode, so an email campaign for the leaders. So you could also share those out if you don't have your own new mode or your own email campaigning tool. You could ask them to also do that, and to write into the federal leaders using our new mode.
That
We
sounds
are in
good.
the
Thank you.
process. Oh, no problem. We are in the process of building an independent web page on the humanecanada.ca website that will be devoted to all things elections. So it will have the platform, the public toolkit that I think we shared in the chat. So feel free to use that. Feel free to share the public toolkit with, like, on your own sort of social media or your own website, or take from it ideas and adapt it to your own sort of strategy. So whatever works for you. And yes, Natalia helpfully put in a definition of what new mode is, because I'll be honest with you, I didn't know either. So that's when you're signing if you'd signed the Senate letters for the horse bill, asking the Senate to, look at the horse bill, that was through new mode. So it targets specific government officials depending on what you want it to do. Right, and Natalia helpfully also shared the public toolkit again, so thank you for that. Anyone else have any questions, comments? We are going to be putting out social media posts probably starting Monday with the Elbows Up hashtag, so we're hoping that that will gain some traction. For those who don't know what Elbows Up is, and I'm surprised I know it because I'm not a hockey fan by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a term that originated with Gordie Howe, so back in the golden age of hockey, and it refers to being ready and prepared. You're not going on the offense, but you are on the defense, and you're prepared to take, some sort of action towards your goal. So in this case, we're going elbows up for animal welfare because in the current economic climate, it's something that not everyone's going to think about. And it is going to impact them though, because they're going to start feeling it with their own companion animals. And that will in turn impact you even more than it already is. So,
I have two quick questions, if that's okay,
yes,
Carrie.
Sarah, go ahead.
Thank you. On the One Health, One Welfare messaging overall, I was curious if your team is looking to connect that back to the Canadian identity of community for the election preparedness, and just was wondering what kind of language you are using, because obviously I want to be careful with partisan language because there has been it's a tricky subject overall, but curious how your team is navigating that. And then a follow-up question to that. We are collecting data. So we did for the provincial election a Reddit poll. What are your top animal welfare concerns you think the government should focus on? And we got some really good feedback. And I was curious if from that kind of model, if that would be something that you guys would be okay with if we looked at a federal level. And then on the reverse side, if we were collecting data as Humane Canada members to be able to share which issues and which posts got the best feedback from our community to then kind of pool where we're looking at that messaging for where we take that next after the election, where it comes to the fall economic statement, possibly a committee study and how we work with other MPs in the future. I apologize for the mouthful.
It's okay. Wow, that's a lot. Sorry, I'm getting excited about the study part because I love a good research study. So, if you wanted to do something similar with like a Reddit poll, with the housing, the Ontario Renters Survey for housing that we did last year, I did it through Qualtrics, which is useful, but a Reddit poll might be easier. It's definitely more accessible for a lot of people. I mean, Qualtrics is pretty good, but some people have issues with clicking on a link because they don't know what the link is. So yeah, a Reddit poll from there and then going from there and seeing what it says and then creating a whole other thing, I think is a fantastic idea. As far as the one health, one welfare, I'm going to admit right off the bat, it's not my area of expertise. Um, so the language around it, we are going to carefully use what we have um, in the platform and stick with that to be safe. And then anything beyond that, we're going to have to run it through Barb and Talika, who are our resident experts on the One Health, One Welfare issue. So I don't know if that is helpful at all or if I even answered your question,
Oh, no,
because basically I just shifted you back to the policy platform. So it feels like I'm redirecting, but I'm really not. I'm
no,
trying to help.
all good. I just wanted to make sure that if that is the route that we ended up taking because of the success that we saw from a provincial level, if
Mhm.
that is something, if we were to collect that data, is there a goal from us as members to like, would we want to share that information when we go to our next conversation after the election to kind of understand like jurisdictionally is the word I guess I'm looking for, like what issues are really resonating? Because I'm not sure if I understand that picture as well as I'd like to understand that picture on a national scale to then understand like when we're targeting specific MPs or we're going after different like committee studies and things like that, just so we know like, oh, we saw that was really big in Ontario, but not as big in Alberta and vice versa. So we know where the messaging to put our efforts. So we're making the best informed choices we can and with sharing information because it's, I believe, very powerful tool that we have as a group. If that's kind of the approach we're taking, so I know what I'm tracking and to see then what we're wanting to share with Humane Canada in our next meeting post-election.
Can I jump in, Sarah?
Yep.
Or Carrie?
I saw
So
you nodding, so yes.
I think it's a great idea, Sarah. I'm wondering, and I think Sarah Herring's online. So different ones of our members have done different polls, if you will, about this issue in their provinces and different research in their provinces. And so I'm wondering if maybe what we should do, and of course I don't know where Ottawa Humane Society is on the idea, but we could create one common research tool, maybe it's Qualtrics, whatever it is, and then we all work on putting it out through our networks so that it gets into each of the provinces. And then that information is fed up naturally into Qualtrics, and then we can do a report. And if we, we could do a running report as well throughout the election if we wanted to. If we were, I think Qualtrics can be that agile. It may not be. We'll have to check. But the other nice thing about Qualtrics, if we use that route, hey, Carrie, is that we can then do something with that academically if we wanted to use it later because it's an academic tool.
It is an academic tool, but we do have to, if we're doing research with people, we often need ethics board approval unless we're doing anonymous sort of entries. If we're
Right.
doing any sort of in-depth interview anonymously, I don't think we need the ethics board approval, and that would have to go through a university. But and we do have partners, but it's like an advanced sort of thing. Whereas if you just want to do like a what is, the key issues right now resonating with Canadians about animal welfare, then I think an anonymous one, we don't actually need ethics board approval. But I may also be wrong because I'm not an expert on that.
So what I'm thinking about, Sarah, is that if we could find one common tool, we all use it, we all share it, then it limits the amount of time we have to aggregate all the data. So I'd be happy if you want to meet and have that conversation, or if we want to call the GR committee together for a quick meeting,
Ooh.
to see if it's something we can do together.
I'm actually going to bring the idea to OAN, so the group that I have these discussions with on Tuesday. I just was curious if your team was already doing it because I was like, oh, that will save me some time. Selfishly, I will say, but if we are looking at that kind of model, just for what I saw that what we did provincially, I found it quite helpful just because we weren't sure like if people were tuned into the issues in the way that we were thinking or where the audience appetite was. So if you're okay with it, Barb, I'll bring it to the group on Tuesday. And then if this is something that others are thinking about from the GR committee, I'd love to hear it and like to see if this is interest or if this is just me being nerdy about data and wanting to collect it. So thank you.
No, I love data too, so I 100% am on board with that. And I would have loved to be able to do that. So, but unfortunately I can't. Um, but yeah, I'm willing to like go through your data with you because I love it too. So, um, and Kathy pointed out that she is ethics board approved through the University of Windsor. So if we need a supervisor for a study, then I think we can put Kathy's name on that because she went through the hoop jumping that was involved in getting that approval. So, um, and I was gonna say something else, but I forget what yeah. And then Natalia also put in if you would like to be part of our GR committee and you are not yet, then feel free to get in touch with either myself at carrie@humanecanada.ca or Barb. But we'd be happy to have you. Yeah, it's gone. Whatever I was going to say before, it's gone. Oh, no, it's not gone. because I was going to say that thanks to Tommy, who is an intern at Montreal SPCA. He's a master's student in political science at the University of Montreal. He very kindly helped with my rudimentary translation into French of the policy platform. So I use two different applications. I use Microsoft Word because they have a Canadian French module, and I used DeepL.com, which is a well-liked translation tool, but Tommy helped with making it more French Canadianized and more sort of accessible to everyone. So I just have to shout Tommy out for that. So we do actually have a French translation of the policy platform. So,
It was a pleasure.
right. Any other questions about anything? As soon as we have our website up and running and our first social media posts, I will be sure to send them out to everyone. So if you would like to receive an informational email or an informational email in general about what's going on with our election efforts, please send me your email address, or you can drop it in the chat if you feel comfortable with that, or you can email me just directly if that's better for you at, again, kerry@humanecanada.ca. That's KERRI at humanecanada.ca. And is there any other questions? No? I feel like Barb got more questions. So,
It's not a competition.
no, it's not a competition.
You're just clear.
And I would lose anyway, so it doesn't matter.
You have more clarity than I do.
Not remotely, but thanks. All right, well, thank you all for attending. I hope that what I said made sense in some way, and that we can, in a harsh election environment that we're going to be going into, we can steer through all of it and get animal welfare elevated up there into at least someone's platform or the conversation in general. So that's the goal. So, all right. Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.